Okay, we're back again, day 2 Romford Film Festival. I'm here with David Larson, who is the writer, director and producer of a wonderful film that we've just seen called Stampila. Thank you very much for joining us. You've come all the way from Shanghai, I understand, for this.
Yeah, so forgive me if I'm a little bit tired, but thank you for screening it here, and it's great to see it in Romford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here we go. So, how did the film first come around? The idea, where did it come from?
Yeah, so Moldova was controlled by an oligarch who not only controlled the government, but he had a private army that worked for him as well, and he also controlled the media, so as oligarchs tend to do. I heard about this guy from a friend, and I was working on a different movie at the time, and my friend said he really wanted to try to make a movie that might help this oligarch be removed from power.
Right.
And that was very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And so I set about writing the film. So that's kind of how it started.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2018, so
Okay.
a while back.
Yeah. And they've since been removed from power?
So 6 months after we wrapped filming. So you may have noticed at the end of this film it ends with a protest scene in the main square of the country. I had 400 extras show up to protest. And having that many extras protesting in front of their equivalent of the White House,
right,
in a country where nobody protests like that,
okay,
can draw attention.
sure,
And so it actually made it onto the news.
right,
People heard, it's such a small country, it's such a tiny country.
Yep.
When you make we sort of had the largest budget film that was there that year, probably in several years.
yeah,
I was the only American to ever direct a film in the country.
okay,
So it made it onto the news.
yes.
Several news, yeah, the ones that weren't controlled by the oligarch. So there's a
Right,
couple
okay.
stations that it got onto.
Sure.
As I said, I had hundreds of extras, but I mean another 100 people involved in the filming of the movie. And so it's such a small country that everybody talks to each other, and it's these Americans are making this movie against the oligarch. How are they doing this? They're still alive. It's working.
Right.
We snuck the film out in a van across the border to Romania. But anyway, 6 months later, he was out of power. He's actually living in Turkey now. He's wanted for his crimes against Moldova.
Okay.
And we premiered there in May, so a year ago, basically.
Okay.
We had our premiere, and it was packed audiences in the capital city. A city where we had to originally sneak the film out of,
Right.
a year before. So
It's quite a turnaround.
yeah, turn around.
Yeah. Did you ever, were you ever in danger? Did you ever worry about
So
this film?
I didn't know I was in danger until after.
Okay.
I was a little bit more arrogant about thinking I was a lot safer than I really was.
Right.
But after the premiere, a man came up to me and he said in his heavy Romanian accent, I needed to talk to you. And he told me that he was from the internal ministry that was responsible for investigating me.
Right.
And he said, I'm so glad we didn't catch you,
Right.
because this wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Okay.
But
Right.
he's like, yeah, I almost arrested you.
Wow.
So it turns out that we were, there were several times we were almost arrested.
Yeah.
All of our actors were threatened. We had locations canceled.
Right.
So I had a sort of secret screenplay that we submitted to the government. We said, this is a love story.
Right.
You can see there's a love story that's most of the film. And then there's the revolution layer that was on top of that.
Yeah.
That's the part that we didn't have the permission to shoot.
Okay.
And we shot that kind of and added that in and wove them together into one story.
Right.
But yeah, all the actors were threatened that they would never work again. They're all theater actors, so they don't really have a lot of film there. But
Okay.
the state pays for theater, so if the theater's canceled, they're never going to work.
Okay.
But nobody quit, so it was pretty cool. We had some footage stolen, a few other things, but mostly it was okay.
Yeah. So it was a big risk for the actors, I'm guessing.
It was a huge
be
risk for the
involved.
actors. Yeah.
How did you convince them to be involved?
It's because they're artists. So this is what really impressed me about the Moldovan people and the actors especially, just artists in general. Artists are always sort of at the avant-garde of revolution.
Yeah.
And when we had all our locations canceled, and that's how they tried to stop the film, once they realized what we were doing.
Yeah.
They actually had a spy that was amongst our crew.
Oh,
And then when they found out, they canceled our locations. This is sort of the end of the film. And then we were really in trouble. And then the actors union, they have a building, and they said, you're going to use our building for all of these interior shots. We had so many shots within this one building,
Yeah.
and they saved us. And they said, we don't care. No one's going to stop us from making art. So artists, I guess, is what helped.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't. It's quite a serious film, obviously. But was there moments where you had fun? You had, on set, and there was things that were rewarding in the end for you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was 16-hour days, so very sort of grueling, a lot of work. Yeah, working with, I had a really great cinematographer and a great first AD, and we all lived together, and we were having to move as fast as possible to stay ahead of the government, so we had to work crazy hours and move really, really fast. But it was just it was a blast doing it. Yeah, it was just because it was one of those kind of like dream sequence things. Like, are we really trying to overthrow an oligarch in this country, right? Yeah. And then I think the craziest part came after, when I'm an American, so we have our own oligarch who's who's sort of in control, and it was just this crazy experience that we made this movie about an oligarch controlling a country, and now it's sort of happening to us.
So obviously when you were making that, just for the timeline, Trump hadn't been in the first time?
Trump, number one, was in.
Trying to work it out.
Yeah, he hadn't come back into power yet, but he had been in power, yeah.
Right, the first version.
Yeah.
Which was slightly more mild.
Right. Now we have Trump 2.0, yeah.
Did anyone have a question at this point? You mind popping your hand up? Yeah. Give us a shout.
In the United States, can
it's
you
cool.
come back and make a film here in our country?
Do the same bit in America, yeah. That'd be handy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I live in China now, actually. So I'm trying to work over there doing different sorts of more commercial stuff. Nothing like this, of course. Yeah, it's amazing to watch from a distance and see how much the reality is shaping up, like the art. Like this story that we told. We never would have imagined that there'd be literally an oligarch who donated $250 million to get this guy elected, who's then behind the scenes doing things. I thought it was something that only happens in sort of tin pot Eastern European countries, and meanwhile they actually overthrew their oligarch. I mean, this guy is literally the guy that this movie's about. There was another scene that had him in it, so I got an actor who looked exactly like the real oligarch. His name is Papasharu, this Romanian or Moldovan oligarch. He means the puppet master. And I got an actor who looks exactly like him, who cut his hair to look like him, wear the same clothes and glasses. And he was in another scene, and that scene completely disappeared. Right. Like from our cutting room, like someone stole it.
So do you think that was the spy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. How did you go about funding this film?
There was a high net worth individual who had a Moldovan wife who wanted to make a movie for her. That's sort of how it started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other audience question? Chris?
Is there any other unusual countries you would want to make a film in?
Yeah, I mean, so I love to travel. I originally lived for a couple of years in a country called Kyrgyzstan. So it's in Central Asia. Yep. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. So I worked to help teach people English and plant trees and stuff like that. But I had learned Russian from that experience. And Moldova is a former Soviet country. It was controlled. So Kyrgyzstan was also controlled by an oligarch. Yep. And in 2004, when I was there, they had a revolution, and I watched this oligarch get overthrown. And I saw the moment when he lost the power because he lost control of the people. And once the people rose up, it was it. He's done. Once the people realized he was not unstoppable. So the key for these oligarchs is they have to stop every single person who rises up has to get smashed. If you rise up against Donald Trump, you have to get smashed. If you don't get smashed, then the rest of the people go, oh wait, we're gonna fight too. Right. And so I saw that happen live, and that made me kind of think, wow, I'd love to one day sort of try to overthrow an oligarch. And then this guy comes on and goes, hey, I want to stop an oligarch. I'm like, what? You just met the right guy, because I want to direct a movie about this. This is like something I want to do for a long time. So to answer your question, Kyrgyzstan was a cool place like to direct a film, and some other sort of interesting places. Certainly in China, I'm working on several projects, but it's very difficult to make films there, especially for a foreigner. Certainly, of course, nothing revolutionary, nothing like this, but even a more commercial film is just difficult to do there.
Yeah, you mentioned there you're in the Peace Corps, and you've had quite an interest. You were on Wall Street, worked at one point.
Yeah.
What was your route into film? How did you find yourself there?
Yeah, it's sort of a strange path. So I worked on Wall Street after college, and I was a foreign currency derivatives trader, and then I moved to Wall Street 6 months before 9/11 happened.
Right.
So after that, the first plane actually crashed into our brokers, and everybody died. And so I was deeply affected by this massive loss of people that I knew that happened very quickly. And my apartment building was so close that the windows were smashed. But I still went back. I mean, I had to go back and clean out this apartment. It was terrible. So a few months, I kept doing my job for a year and a half, but it was the worst year and a half of my life. And then I quit and joined a tribe in Africa.
Right.
Yeah, and that was for a few months, and I got really sick. I came back, and then they sent me to Kyrgyzstan, and that's where I lived for a couple of years.
Right.
So to get to filmmaking, it's another 50 steps of strange stuff. But yeah, somewhere along the way, I got a master's degree in business. Again, trying to deny that I wanted to be an artist, you know. And then yeah, eventually I started making films.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yep.
What are your plans now? Because this film would do really well in the United States right now.
Yeah, we're looking at distribution right now. We're talking to a lot of people. We're trying to find a partner to distribute in the States. So it's been hard to get through to. We talked to Netflix, it didn't quite work out. Looking at Amazon Prime as well. It probably will end up going one of those VOD, like video on demand things, is what we're looking at right now. So it's tough because it's in Romanian, or most of it's in Romanian, and a lot of Americans don't watch films in a foreign language. But yeah, if anybody has any contacts to distribute, we'd love to talk to you. We just want it to be seen. It's not even a money thing.
Right. If not distributors, American film festivals, this could play really well.
Yeah. So we've actually won at a few American film festivals. It's the most prestigious I think we got was Heartland, which is an Oscar qualifier. I got a nomination for a director award that I lost to Jesse Eisenberg, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it made it pretty far, and it was pretty neat to have the experience. I think maybe it was a little bit too soon for the Donald Trump Redux experience. I think yeah, if it had come out right now, I think if it just started, this is actually our last festival here, and we're ending our run. But yeah, it has struck a tone with a few people.
I really think if you don't get a distribution deal, there are art house cinemas in every city that could easily play this. You could self-distribute.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's part of the project we're looking at right now, is just putting it out to art house cinemas and letting it go. It definitely wants to be seen, and it's not about making. The guy who funded it is not trying to make money, so it's
It's more about the message, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is about the
Parallels
message.
and that kind of stuff, yeah.
I mean, the main goal of the film at the time, this is before Trump, was to remove an oligarch from power. And he was removed from power before we even finished cutting the film, just because of that scene at the end where you have hundreds of people protesting him.
Anyone else?
I'll say one thing. I was in Czechoslovakia at the end of the Velvet Revolution, and it was artists who really
That's right.
started the overturning of the government.
Yeah, absolutely. We were inspired by that as well, the Velvet Revolution, absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're pointing to something that's very important for artists. I'm involved with artists, and I think they have a role.
Oh, art is upstream of civilization. I mean, it's upstream of politics, and certainly artists are at the vanguard of a revolution.
Anyone else? Last question from me. So, are you working on anything specific that you can tell us about? Specifically, obviously working in China.
Yeah, so I've been working on a love story about an American woman and a Chinese man. I'm trying to sort of bridge this gap between American understanding of China and China understanding of America and the reality.
Okay.
So whenever I go home to America, my friends and family are like, "Are you safe there? Is it okay? Are you going to be okay?" And I'm just like, they have no drugs, they have no crime, they have no gangs, right? There's no, it's very, very safe in that way. And then when I talk to Chinese people, they have completely no idea about the real America.
Right.
And so I'm trying to kind of bridge this like knowledge gap between the two and make them less enemies as much as I could with that sort of artistic view.
What is the main view of America from the Chinese side?
It's tricky because they have this. It's called the Great Firewall, right? They can't access the internet outside of Chinese internet, and so what they see tends to be slanted in the negative, like sort of negative stories about America are what play, and there's not really a lot of positive stuff. So they think, oh, it's depraved lunatics running the streets and that kind of stuff. Now, granted, our current president hasn't been helping make us look better, but it's not as bad as as it comes across.
Mm. So, David, thank you very much for coming. Congratulations on the film. It's hugely entertaining, and well made and important. All those three things, I think, which is key.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Have a round of applause, please, for David. Thank you.